Everyone, Dr. Westman here. Sorry for a glitch. I'm going to try to go a little bit to briefly come on tonight and have a big announcement that we're opening a new course at Adapt Your Life Academy. And I'm actually a little out of sorts because for the first time, our website is down. So it's kind of interesting. So I don't have the website for you to go to right now, but that's okay. I'd like to explain. I'm assuming it'll be up tomorrow. So fantastic. I'm starting to see the chat, and I'll take some questions too. So go ahead and put them in there. Well, I wanted to explain why at Adapt Your Life Academy we are unveiling and bringing out for the first time a course on the carnivore diet. And for those of you who know me, I've been using a keto diet in my clinic after doing research for 10 years. And now research has been confirming that all around the world on a keto diet for reversal of obesity, type 2 diabetes, all sorts of medical issues. As an internist, internal medicine specialist myself, I'm basically reversing or greatly improving all of these medical issues that my colleagues use medications for. So the power of food has been indelibly etched into my mind. And so the carnivore diet, I've seen enough evidence in my clinic and in research studies and in kind of the basic history of what humans have eaten to be able to offer it with confidence and then also with safety, as long as you do it right. And I'd like to explain my view of what a carnivore diet is. It's actually a little more powerful than the approach that I've been using for a long time called a keto diet. Some people call it ketovore, keto-ish, carnivore-ish, all of that. Essentially, the carbohydrates are kept really low. So your body starts burning its own fat. That happens on a carnivore diet, happens on a keto diet, happens on an ultra-low calorie diet, which I don't use in my clinic, but it's the commonality of all these different things. However, some people are sensitive to things in foods that go beyond calories and go beyond carbs. For example, you may have heard about gluten problems. I'm gluten sensitive. Even there are restaurants that'll ask you, no bread? Oh, is it allergy or preference? So gluten sensitivity comes in grains and in bread. So a carnivore diet is a gluten-free diet. It's not just low gluten, it's gluten-free. So some people start a carnivore diet and get benefit because they're doing a gluten-free diet. That's okay. That's part of the package. There are other elements in the food. You may be lactose sensitive, or you may be sugar sensitive. Well, those are removed out of the diet as well. Again, this is categorizing carnivore and keto as elimination diets. It eliminates foods that people have problems with. Gluten, in fact, causes the lining of the GI tract to go from having nice, what are called villi, where you absorb food, to flat, where the no villi. So gluten enteropathy or celiac disease, it's the same thing, can actually cause pretty bad malnutrition. And I think I saw someone who did, best I could put two and two together, did a carnivore diet and fixed her gluten enteropathy, and yet nobody was able to diagnose her gluten enteropathy because it's hard to diagnose. So there are some conditions that we try to diagnose as doctors, but it's not a perfect world, and often you can't diagnose them. So she had fixed anemia, which was, low blood levels, because she couldn't absorb iron. The doctors couldn't figure it out. She finally told me her story. It came to me because she lives in our region. And essentially, she fixed her celiac disease by doing a carnivore diet. Now, carnivore being an elimination diet. It eliminated gluten in her case. There are people who are sensitive to what are called FODMAPs. These are simple sugars. FODMAP, I always forget the acronym. It's fructose, oligosaccharide, disaccharide. Essentially a carnivore diet is a FODMAP-free diet. So you may have gone to a gastroenterologist and with GI problems, usually, gurgling, and it's usually not an inflammatory bowel disease. It's more an irritable bowel disease. You might even be sent for a SIBO test, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. You breathe into a machine and they diagnose you. Well, a carnivore diet essentially fixes that by eliminating the simple sugars that cause SIBO. So a carnivore diet, or a keto diet that I teach as well, but carnivore is one of them, is a FODMAP-free diet. And there are doctors who prescribe a FODMAP diet, but it's not easy to do. And this is stronger because it's also a gluten-free diet. It's a simple sugar diet, free diet. Most of the preservatives and artificial dyes and all the things in ultra processed foods that we're not quite sure are healthy are eliminated on a carnivore diet. So, yellow diet number, whatever, I don't keep up with all that, because in the approach that I teach, when I say eat real foods as best you can, this will eliminate all of those potentially gut or migraine causing additives that are in the foods. Again, a carnivore diet, when it's done appropriately, it eliminates the additives that you'll find in the ultra processed foods. If you watch my channel, or if you're just looking around, everyone's worried about seed oils, and I have to say I'm not concerned, because on the approach that we teach, there aren't many seed oils. And if you all you did is get seed oils out, but you don't talk about sugar and any other sort of element in the food, I don't think a whole lot of benefit. Some benefit would happen, but not as much as you would get by targeting the carbs. Oh, a carnivore diet is a carbohydrate-free diet, of course, goes without saying. So it's interesting, because in some people's minds, because we don't have a typical teaching about diet and nutrition, some people think this radical diet, carnivore, way over here. No, it's not that radical to me, because I've been living in a space of studying and prescribing a keto diet, which is very close to carnivore. Now, if you talk to a traditionally trained dietitian, nutritionist, or doctor who are not familiar with this, sure, they'll say that it's very extreme. But I don't see it that way. I think that it's a corrective elimination diet, that there are things that, in fact, that I'm learning about that are eliminated or changed a lot. Histamine reactions, for example, and other sorts of kind of rare, but not, they're uncommon, but not rare problems, like POTS, where you have tachycardia syndrome, you have a problem with blood pressure. There are all these kind of strange conditions that doctors aren't quite certain how to approach it. I've seen these things improve with a keto diet and with a carnivore type of diet. So that was my first point, is that it's the granddaddy of all elimination diets, the carnivore diet. So especially if you're living with autoimmune conditions, even if you've done keto for a while, if you're stuck, I've seen people just cut out those veggies, eliminate the plant foods, and get off plateaus. I've seen them correct autoimmune conditions. Not generally totally. I can't although there are some rheumatologic conditions that I've seen total reversal in my clinic, but also online with credible anecdotes of autoimmune conditions getting better. Things like rheumatoid arthritis and inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. These are conditions that keto itself might not fully fix or take away the symptoms from. So that might be a reason to try the carnivore switching. It's just a little bit of a switch. So is carnivore too extreme is one of the biggest questions I get. And from my vantage point, it's not that extreme. You're getting all the essential nutrients that you need. And this is basic science. It's not always what pop culture teaches you. And so I don't think it's too extreme. And that's kind of like the most common question that I get. And then, yes, you get all the nutrients that you need. No, you don't need fiber. And these are context-dependent issues. So that if you're eating carbs and your microbiome is a certain way, then you need fiber. And people will say that, you need fiber. Well, we're in a different context. We're in a world where we're not feeding people carbohydrates. The microbiome changes. And best I can say that it calms things down when you do a carnivore diet. That's the signal people tell me. So the GI tract improves greatly. Any kind of symptom down there in the belly. So there are just a few things I wanted to be sure to go over before I get to the questions. Thank you. I see some coming in. So if you're new to keto, new to carnivore, I think carnivore is a great place to start. It's simple. It's easy to learn. Sometimes that, I can't believe that it's so, monotonous and all that. Well, actually, most people who stick with it find it to be delicious and not monotonous at all. So, but you might think that up front. Cravings go away pretty fast, whether you do a keto diet or a carnivore diet, because your body starts burning its own fat. So carnivore shares the metabolism of a keto diet. And that's why I'm comfortable, because I'm comfortable with the keto diet after using it and studying it for 25 years. Many people like the simplicity of the carnivore diet. And the way we teach it is very simple and straightforward. We don't have you count macros and worry about checking ketones, things like that. We have a very simple approach to teaching it. So because of this background and the clinical practice that I'm still at Duke University, we have created a carnivore course at Adapt Your Life Academy. And I was just notified a moment ago that the website is down. Don't know why. It'll be up in the morning. My team's in another country, and they're ahead of us in time, but still they can't troubleshoot it yet. But write down adaptyourlifeacademy.com and go there tomorrow and check it out. The course has some features I want to make sure you know, that you can have lifetime access to the course material. It's at a website, and there's durable material that I did videos for some of the content. There are PDF files. We go into references and make sure that it's well documented, like any good academic would have for the course. So I'm really proud of how things have come together to give you the background scientifically, but also the clinical application, which really, I think we have a unique perspective and team at Adapt Your Life Academy. So the course is now open, and of course you can't enroll at the moment, but it's open tomorrow to enroll at Adapt Your Life Academy. It's not just the course material. We found through teaching our flagship course, Keto Made Simple, this is called Carnivore Made Simple, we found that it's very helpful to bring people together as they start. And so we'll bring you into, if you sign up for the course, we bring you into a 2-week Facebook group where we use social media to get people together. It happens that Facebook is the one we've chosen. If you don't have Facebook, that's fine. If you're allergic to it, don't like it, it's okay. We send you the materials and all the information. You don't have to have the Facebook group, although it's useful to start. If you're new to keto or carnivore, then you'll be coached as you get started. We found that this is very helpful to overcome the initial inertia to keep you from starting. So we'll teach you, we'll support you during this pretty critical time of making sure you have electrolytes, if you have headaches, that sort of thing. If you're on medication, we need to be sure you don't get over-medicated. So that Facebook group is a really kind of a jewel for our program. And I have trained administrators to help 24/7, basically, as you get started. There's the durable content, the videos, the PDFs, there's the Facebook group, and there are live sessions to handle questions just like this during the starting of the course. All of this is taped. It gets sent to you. If you can't get access to it live, that's fine. We've helped people all around the world with courses through Adapt Your Life Academy, and we're set up to make it asynchronous to make sure that you get all the information that you need. And then I'm just in awe of the power of having this material available, and then you get access to it forever. So that's pretty neat. It's my pleasure to be able to give this information and teach it outside my Duke clinic. In fact, at Adapt Your Life Academy, I'm teaching more people internationally, well, in the US and internationally, than I'm seeing in my own practice, because there are only so many doors to get into the rooms at Duke, in my practice. So this allows us to scale it up and get the information to you. So there'll be a link to the course. If it's not working right now, just come back to it. Go to adaptyourlifeacademy.com tomorrow. Look for the Carnivore Made Simple course. Some tips just in starting a diet, carnivore, keto. Keep it simple. Simplicity means sustainability. And I've seen people try to overcomplicate things where they're, getting started, and then, well, I need to recreate the bread, pasta, rice, all these things that actually, after a few moments, you really don't miss it. And that's one of the big conceptual changes that you won't understand until you start, that you won't be craving the things that you crave right now. It changes pretty fast. So keep it simple, and then give it time. I see other influencers say, you need 90 days, you need 60 days. I don't know. Many of my patients, after just a couple days, are just shocked at how things change, how quickly it is. And so I don't know that you need to commit other than to just get started, and you'll see that the cravings go away, the hunger goes away, you eat less automatically because you're basically burning your body fat first. So if you look up under the hood, what's happening is you're accessing your body fat store, which makes you eat less. It's not that you lose weight because you eat less. You're losing weight and then you eat less. That reversal, if you're not into that yet, one day it'll be an aha moment. Anyway, we explain all that in the course and support you. If the third tip that I would give is to follow how you feel, and trust your body, not what they're saying, out there. And I see a lot of people get derailed by some of the myths and misconceptions about a low carb diet, even after it's been out there and there are keto products at the store. Well, that's probably my final tip. Be very wary of the keto products. If you're trying to do a keto diet, they're often not low enough. It's what we call internet keto, where it is not as strong as our prescription strength keto diet that we teach. And remember, I think of carnivore as a subset of a keto diet. It's very, very close metabolically. So The course is open. We've worked hard to put this together, and I'm getting great feedback from people already about it. And I think we have a great team. I'm really proud of what we've put together and hope you take advantage of it. The course is open for enrollment now when the website's up. And if you need more information, check out the information at adaptyourlifeacademy.com. Let me check out some of the comments here. You know, we're going to get some trolls. It's okay. Already purchased. Oh, great. Fantastic. Thanks, Jonil. Beverly, please tell me 10 people on with CKD as a keto diet for them, or the carnivore, whatever. I got some KD from diabetes. My doctor thinks keto will help it. And I don't like vegetables. Beverly, I don't quite understand. We've done summary and reviews of patients in my clinic. Dr. Unwin has done reviews of patients in the Virta Health study. Virta Health Company has done reviews, and actually Virta has a paper that says this is why low carb is good for kidney disease. So yeah, I think that was one of the prejudging the prejudices about a keto diet. So you want to do it correctly, of course, and monitor kidney function, of course, with any kind of approach that you use. Hello. I always like the folks from Fiji, Colorado. Let's see, 4 months in, Yvonne, it could be electrolytes for sure. So one of the things with any kind of dietary change that's powerful is you want to make sure you're getting plenty of salt and water. Electrolytes, meaning salt, and then potassium and magnesium are the other ones. I don't recommend everyone take those supplements, unless you're worried about the keto flu or some kind of adaptation symptom. You've tried it before, you had headache or fatigue the first few days. When you're 4 months in, it's usually a salt thing or an over medication if you're on blood pressure medicine, for example. And then the nuance is, in my clinic is, no, it's not a blood pressure medicine, it's a heart medicine, but it affects the blood pressure. So if you're on medication, you'll want to have your doctor go over it with a fine-tooth comb, because there are often medicines that are used for something else but can affect the blood pressure, and blood pressure can lower the energy you're on. Let's see, if you're only eating meat, does metformin work the same? Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a study to address that question. So the metformin enhances insulin resistance. What you're asking is, let's say we take those who eat carbs, those who don't eat carbs, give them metformin and see if it works the same. And I routinely take away metformin and any other diabetes or insulin resistance pre-diabetes medicines as the blood sugars come down, because this way of eating is much more powerful than medications. So of course you'll want to be monitoring blood sugars if you can, if you're treating a condition like pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. Let's see, CKD, yeah, that's chronic kidney disease, CKD. I think it's fine with monitoring. I even have several patients, one that comes in frequently, who's lost weight on dialysis. And no, his kidneys did not miraculously start again, but he's come a long way and losing weight. You can lose weight on dialysis. You have to tell the people that you are doing that, because they adjust the dry weight. If you're not on dialysis, that's okay. Don't worry about it. This is just something they do. They adjust the weight at the hemodialysis center. So I've been blissfully happy using keto and carnivore diets in a clinic where I treat all sorts of medical conditions. And so that's kind of the boundary of, if you're on medications, you're seeing a doctor, be sure you follow with someone. This medications are powerful and become too strong frequently. This is a prescription strength program, Carnivore is, keto is. And so you want to treat it with respect, like a drug, and most doctors even don't understand that, I'm afraid. So again, thanks for joining me on this live. We're opening up the Carnivore Made Simple course at adaptyourlifeacademy.com. A little glitch at the website, so that you can't go there right now, but please check it out tomorrow. Yeah, if you're new, I didn't have facial hair since medical school, now that I think about it. And I think the pro outweigh the cons on the facial hair, but I hope that's not a big deal. It's more what I say. I hope that's important. So let's see. Carb free, some carbs and eggs. Yeah, not much though. So, one thing I've learned when I talk about carbs is I don't worry about the carblets, the little, the micro carbs. Your body functions in terms of grams of carbohydrates. And if it's a carblet, meaning a micro amount of carb, I don't stress about it. Like the carbs in the egg or the meat, it's trivial compared to the amount of carbs that are trafficking around in your body. So think in grams, not micrograms. A pulmonary doctor, it's fine. I've seen this way of eating help with asthma, other conditions. It's fascinating. If you have extra weight, it actually pushes up your lungs to cause what's called restrictive pulmonary disease. If you have a lot of weight to lose, as you lose the weight, the lungs actually expand and the lung function can improve. That's independent of the asthma. And I think asthma, as I mentioned, this is an elimination diet. And if you're sensitive to some allergic issue in the food or beverage or preservatives, that this is going to be eliminating that factor. So let's see. Susan, my fasting blood sugar is still in triple digits. Well, that could be 102, which to me is normal. So hang on, don't stress. And not knowing the specific details, I don't know really how to advise, Susan. I'm sorry, but check out the course. Hello from Canada. Clark says, 3.5 years, ketovore, carnivore, no more joint pain, sunburns, breathing problems. Yeah, the sunburn, Clark, is interesting. I think that it's said that has to do with eliminating the seed oils and other inflammatory things in the food, which is pretty neat. And you won't find that in the literature, the medical literature. So have you ever heard of priming? Yeah, I've heard of that. And if you go to the YouTube channel, I have lots of free information. I did a reacts video to the idea of priming on carnivore. And, there's not really any scientific data for it. It's something that you could do or not. I think there are a lot of people who don't do the priming, but it's something that I have heard of, and I'm not sure how to incorporate that yet. It's definitely not necessary. Let's see. Have you thought about more, Charles? Have you thought about strict diet treating multiple sclerosis? Well, MS or multiple sclerosis is one of these conditions that the traditional medical folks really don't know what causes it, right? I mean, there are medicines that can help, and it's thought to be in that category of autoimmune diseases because there are these lesions, spots in the brain that come and go. So I've met a few people who think that their MS is better. I don't know of any solid cases or studies about it yet, but I'm optimistic that healing the cause of autoimmunity, whether it be leaky gut or the components in the food, this being the granddaddy of elimination diets, that there are people who do see some benefit. I was traveling with Adapt Your Life around the country before the COVID times and met someone who thought her MS was better. And so what I tried to do is plant the seed. Why don't you create a Facebook group? Why don't you see if other people are having the same results? So if you go to Keto MS, or if it's MS Keto, one of those, there are now hundreds of people, I believe, who have gone there and think they're getting benefit or they're learning about it. And this is the grassroots change that we see. There are Facebook groups and other groups of people who have type 1 diabetes who are teaching each other, because the mainstream folks, for some reason, think it's unhealthy, when you can actually have normal blood sugars as a type 1 diabetic. You still need medication, but you don't have these low blood sugars that terrify the parents. So there are a lot of these grassroots changes. MS might be one of those. And it really cries out for more solid research, because MS is a condition that can kind of come and go. It's hard to study these conditions because you might just let the passage of time happen and it goes away, right? So check out the Facebook group for more information, Keto MS. I have nothing to do with it. I just said to somebody when I was traveling, why don't you make a Facebook group and see if it grows? See if there's a signal among the grassroots folks doing this. Let's see. Chocolate says, are you now using a carnivore diet yourself? Well, that's an interesting question, Chocolate. Do you eat chocolate? Chocolate? So I didn't come to this because of my own personal health issue. A lot of doctors do that. If you don't know my story, 2 of my patients did a keto or low carb, it was called Atkins induction diet, by reading books. They lost over 50 pounds and came back to me, and I said, well, what did you do? And, one of the gentlemen, because I was at a VA hospital at the time, Veterans Affairs Hospital, was pretty much all men. He looked at me and said, all I did is eat steak and eggs. And this was 1998. And so, it threw me for a loop. Everyone thought it was bad. And so it's not about me. In fact, yes, I eat a low carb diet because it just felt right. It was comfortable for me. But I don't need that keto or carnivore metabolism. In my book, my latest book, I've been an author on a bunch of books, and my latest one, which I think is the most updated, there are actually 3 different carb levels, so that if you take a quiz in the book, it might sort you into a low glycemic level carb intake. So someone said that this is a cult. No, it's not a cult. In fact, if it's a cult, then the leader is not drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, I'm not. This is science. And so it's fascinating to see how that's called out. And so I would have to say, no, I'm not using a carnivore diet myself. But think of it. I do from time to time. I find it's a variation on a theme. If I was studying a drug for high cholesterol as a researcher, and I didn't have high cholesterol, would you think it unusual that I didn't take a drug that I was studying? How's that? So I got into this not because of my own cult or feeling, or it was because of science. So what we did is we started doing research on low carb diets, and I've found it's evolved over time. The name has changed, although the content pretty much is the same. So that's interesting. You can talk to or query other, leaders in this space, and many of them are carnivore followers. I don't, that's fine. I don't need it metabolically, and I haven't signed off yet on this as like the best way to live forever. That was another point I wanted to make. You don't have to do this forever. There are people who use this as a corrective type of, kind of like using a medication to get you to a goal, and then you can do whatever you want. So, unlike other real cults of diet, you don't have to do this forever. There's no one reeling you in to get you to eat a certain, well, there might be but that it's not because of that's the only way to do things. So curious but this isn't about me. I want to help you. Let's see. The best thing I can use is that drug metaphor of, if I don't have the disease, I don't take the drug, even though that I study it or advise other people to do it. It's really not fair to hold the teacher of something accountable like that. In fact, I help people quit smoking as a career for 10 years, and yet there was this thing of, well, if the doctor smokes, can he or she advise the patient to quit smoking? Of course. I mean, their addiction or their problem has nothing to do with the ability to advise for health, right? That's my point of view. Let's see. Where am I here? Keto is known to cause insignificant bleeding. Does carnivore do the same? I haven't heard of that, so I don't know that bleeding is insignificant. Sorry, simply me. PA beater, mostly whole food, keto, leaning toward carnivore. Yeah, that's what do I eat? Okay, I got to it. Sama asks, what are your thoughts using the carnivore diet to lower thyroid antibodies in long-term Hashimoto's, 30 plus years? Thanks for all you do. Well, you're welcome. And I don't know. That's a measurable sort of thing. I haven't seen studies looking at Hashimoto's like this. Haven't even seen a case study published, which is, spreading that knowledge to somewhere outside an individual's practice. I'd like to know if someone else has found that, but I have not seen that. In general, autoimmune problems should improve if this story and the pathophysiology is the story is pathophysiology. So try it and see. So, I mean, I don't have any problem recommending this way of eating. If any human didn't eat for a day or two, you would go into fat burning and ketosis, or what we call euketonemia, normal ketone levels, because we store fat on our bodies. And so over the last 25 years, I've come full circle to just say, well, wait a minute. If we store fat on our bodies, we become fat burners after 2 days of not eating food or not eating carbs. This is not unhealthy. In fact, it may be protective, which is just an interesting twist on your perspective. Let's see, chocolate. Yeah, if you purchased a keto course, you should be able to get access to it at Adapter-Life Academy. Email us at academy@adapterlife.com, and we can get you access to it again. Of course, that would just be the keto course. You have to pay again for the carnivore course. Let's see. You're welcome. Let's see. I have chronic muscle and joint pain. I've done keto. It helps some, but it's gotten worse. Do you think carnivore will help? Possibly. So Lisa, depending on what else is going on, I would screen for other medications that might be causing those problems. Electrolyte replacement, of course. In my clinic, if I routinely do a panel of blood work, kind of like a typical internal medicine doctor before someone gets started, and a focus on thyroid as well. I realize here at a distance, we're not doing that same thing. So you might want to get a basic panel if you haven't had it done at a doctor to rule out some things that I'm just assuming aren't happening, because I look for those things in my clinic before people get started. Let's see. Just keep going. Used to make carnivore pizza. Now it's just not worth the time. Yeah. So PA beater. Anyway. Yeah. At first, I used to do all sorts of things trying to recreate the food that I, trying to make bread. Remember Revolution rolls, Oopsie rolls? and cloud bread now, fascinating. The cloud bread company makes and sells what we used to make on our own, which was whipping up the egg whites, mixing it with egg yolk and cream cheese, putting on a cookie sheet and baking it. And this, the Cloudy's cloud bread, basically these are little airy things that don't have much taste or flavor, but they have no carbs. And I'll see them from time to time in the stores. But now, yeah, it's just not worth doing that, or you're saving time. You're keeping things simple, and I want you, and I want my patients to be able to enjoy other aspects of life rather than having to worry about what the next meal will be or where it's going to come from. But at first you could make carnivore pizza, carnivore bread, all these different things to kind of get you over the hurdle of missing the foods you've had for so long. That's pretty common. Let's see, I've 10 months of carnivore. I'm 41, never felt this good. Yeah, Matt, that's fantastic. Let's see, the title of my latest book is End Your Carb Confusion. And then there's also End Your Carb Confusion, the cookbook. We were very lucky to have a chef who worked in Michelin star restaurants for 20 years, volunteer to write a cookbook for us. And so Chef Scott Parker is the author of the second one. The pictures are great. He actually wrote a course on the culinary arts for Adapter Life Academy as well. But so End Your Carb Confusion is the most recent book that I've been involved in. Let's see, I'm sorry if I miss a few. The chat just kind of went poof on me. Let's see. Why don't the trials involving Mendelian randomization show that LDL-C is likely causal? Is a vegan person? Thanks for the question. The study that I point to most recently, and it's a randomized trial, meaning people are experimentally sorted into a couple groups, and they don't have a choice. The Stanford study that looked at it's called Diet Fits, and they had different types of diets, including ultra low carb and ultra low fat. The ultra low carb was mostly meat. The ultra low fat was mostly vegetable. So it was kind of like plant-based versus animal-based kind of analysis. So the bigger study, there were all sorts of ways of eating. They pulled out the people who were very strict and were at the extremes. And the metabolism looked very similar. So we're actually on the same team, so that we're all trying to target insulin resistance metabolically, whether it be plant-based or animal-based. You want to keep the insulin in the blood low, and you can do it by many different ways. That's just my perspective. I'm past president of the Obesity Medicine Association, where 5,000 doctors around the US are using medications and different diets. And so I know there are lots of ways to do this. This is not a cult. So yeah, artificial sweeteners is a great one. And in my experience, using artificial sweeteners, I like to call them non-sugar sweeteners, because stevia, which is natural, kind of falls into that category. Monk fruit, allulose, all of these things, they're basically sweeteners, but it's not sugar. Well, these don't raise the blood sugar, and they really don't raise the insulin. So the metabolism I'm trying to correct, insulin resistance, diabetes, obesity, they're fine. And in my experience, there's rarely a problem. Sometimes people overconsume them, have loose stools and bloating. Sometimes people get a headache from aspartame. Well, then don't have that, So I'm in favor of the change from a sugary drink to a non-sugary sweet drink, at least temporarily, to get you off the sugar. Over time, do you need to have those things? Well, I haven't seen any study that showed health benefits from having Splenda or aspartame or sucralose, So I think that they're okay. And I know that separates me from a lot of the, how should I say, influencers who want to teach perfection. I have to meet you where you are. And I don't want perfection to be, limiting you from having progress. That's just a very clinical perspective as someone who's watched other doctors do it different ways, and on the internet, if you're not held accountable by your patients. And it's one thing to have a chat, and there's a lot of selection bias, echo chamber. But if you're in a clinic, you teach someone, and then they come back a month later and they say it's not working, you figure out why, or you try something else. So that's why I'm thinking that it's okay to use non-sugar sweeteners. Let's see. Hello, and Carnivore Police. That's a good one. Good handle. And can your blood sugar drop too low? Certainly. Although, so Sabrina, when you cut out carbs, a lot of things are changing metabolically. If you're otherwise healthy, no, you won't have a low blood sugar, because your body makes all the sugar it needs, and it's supported and regulated by a hormone called glucagon. And if your blood sugar is going low, your body sends out adrenaline or epinephrine, and then chronically cortisol to keep the blood sugar from going too low. If you eat carbs and the blood sugar goes up and insulin goes up, it can cause a low blood sugar, and you rescue yourself with sugar. This is called reactive hypoglycemia. And so that is why some people mistake the diet causing low blood sugar, when if you're not eating carbs, it won't go too low unless you're on medication. And I say that because most people who are put on medication are not told about the risks of low blood sugar. It's not even mentioned as an issue. And so most patients who come to me on blood sugar lowering medicine don't understand that it's medicine that caused the blood sugar to go too low, or the reactive hypoglycemia, which is actually caused by the carbs, the sugars and starches that you consumed maybe even 2 hours ago. So I'm sorry if that may be complicated. We have a course that I wrote at Adapt Your Life Academy on diabetes to get into detail about all of the things we know about blood sugar, and it's actually not all that complicated when you really get down to it. But so the blood sugar shouldn't go too low. So if you didn't hear my question or answer before, go back and replay. No, yes, I do eat some carbs. I'm not the cult leader, and sometimes I do that just to show that I'm not a cult leader. I'll be in a group of people and I'll say, forgive me if I offend you, but do you mind if I have a small piece of bread? I mean, I do it as a joke, okay? I got into this because of the research and the science. And just like if someone is studying a drug as a researcher, I'm a researcher first, that person doesn't have to take the drug if they don't have the disease, right? Okay. It's not fair the way doctors are held to a smoker can't tell someone not to smoke. Yeah, they can. Anyway, let's see. Tammy, will PSMF help you get into ketosis fast? So PSMF, protein sparing modified fast. Yeah. So of the variations on a theme of a keto diet, you have pretty much just protein. That's the protein sparing modified fast. And that's going to help you get into fat burning pretty quickly. You have total fasting or starvation, which will get you into fasting and or fat burning pretty quickly. You have carnivore, which is actually very close, depending how you do it. Lean meats or high fat meats. And I would recommend you don't add fat in. We get into that in the course if you're trying to lose fat off your body. So beware of who you're learning from, what they've accomplished. You may want a little different food on your plate. if you're trying to lose fat off your thighs or your belly, you don't want to have a lot of butter on your plate, because you have to burn through that butter, the fat, before you're going to burn your body fat. So I come to this as a clinical doctor reversing diseases, and give you that perspective. Let's see. So glad I've lost 105 pounds since October 10, 2024. That's fantastic. That's not even a year. And I typically see 50 to 100 pounds in a year. And so that's great. I typically see that 1 to 2 pounds per week when I teach someone a keto or carnivore type of diet. So you're welcome. And okay, low carb, low drama, 1.5 grams of carbs in each egg. Well, I try to simplify things, and unless you're really sensitive but if you're eating 6 eggs, well, I don't know. In my experience, people generally eat 2 eggs and 2 pieces of bacon or sausage in the morning. Now, yes, some extreme people on the internet will say, oh, I had 20 eggs or something. No, so you want to eat till you're comfortably full. It's not a competition to eat eggs. And so in the teaching that I teach, in the usual consumption, you don't have to count. Well, in fact, I don't have people count carbs at all. I give a list of foods, and you don't have to count carbs. Well, and on carnivore, there are pretty much no carbs. And I suppose if you eat 20 eggs a day, you might stop the ketosis. So it's not a competition to eat 20 eggs a day. And that's something that, if you're following this and it's not working, those are little glitches that we might talk about or get into. Of course, always count total carbs if you do count carbs, not net carbs like the products say. Basically, you want to be sure to be counting total, not net. And then someone else, see, this is where Lexus comes in and says, no, it is 0.6 net carbs. Lexus, well, but that's net carbs, and I want total. And just relax, please. Maria Louise, why are dietitians still so obstinate and insist you need tons of carbs? I don't know. Well, yeah, I do. That's the way they're taught. That's we try to teach as much as we can. And Lexus and low carb, you're going at it still. Yeah, but just drop the eggs. Let's see. Trying to get to a few more questions, and it looks like I'm running out of time here. So how much protein? Yeah, this is a great question. Carnivore Police asks, how much protein do you recommend? Just as much as you need. And I know that sounds silly, but I don't think anyone knows the amount. And if they do know the amount, I don't think they really know the amount, and they're just wanting to give the impression that they know. I think there's a lot of variability, and with the knowledge now of autophagy, meaning you're recycling your proteins, I think this is part of the explanation that there is actually a documented case of under medical supervision, a man lost weight for over a year without eating anything. So where did the protein come from? Well, you could say the muscle mass and all, but actually you have to have an ability to recycle protein. Otherwise, this person would not have been able to survive. I think we're in the infancy of the understanding of this kind of research. If I was teaching you were a doctor sitting for an exam at the Obesity Medicine Board of Obesity Medicine, you can take an exam. I would teach you that you need 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. And that's the question answer for the test. Is that what we do in the clinic? I think there's wiggle room there. So great. Well, hey, I'm so glad you're hanging in here, kind of an unannounced live that I'm we've opened the carnivore course at Adapt Your Life Academy, and I'm sorry, the website, I was told, is just down. So please check back tomorrow for more information or to sign up for the carnivore course. Linguistic Alino says, what are your thoughts on SIBO? Yeah, so SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, is pretty much fixed by a carnivore diet. So your microbiome, your bacteria in your gut, change based on what you eat. And there's actually a machine in my clinic area where people come in for the checking for small bacteria, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So most people get fixed by using a carnivore diet, so super low carbs, and perhaps some antibiotics in addition. At a recent meeting, there's some, I talked to a lot of doctors. There were doctors from Sweden who were using carnivore and other low carb and antibiotics for SIBO. And I trying to just figure it out. And I was saying this way, that way. And I said, so basically most people, just about everyone gets better on the carnivore diet. And they kind of said, yeah. So you can test for it. You can give antibiotics for it. And most GI doctors won't tell you to change what you eat. That's not the only way to do things. So let's see. Still constipated after. Well, Alex, it doesn't matter how often you poop. Often that gets confused as constipation. If the stools just are less often, no problem. Yeah, if you have hard stools, hard to pass stools, I have a video at Adapt Your Life, Dr. Eric Westman YouTube channel. Go there and search constipation. I talk about the squatty potty, the moo to poo video to watch. There are all these other things that have to do with stool hygiene. And so it doesn't have to be changing the diet itself. But that's certainly something you want to get a handle on for sure. Great. Looks like those are still going at the different carbs in the eggs, huh? Well, let's just say, don't worry about it. Great. Do you get enough nitric oxide on carnivore? Jessica, I have no idea. And, I've been reacting to some videos lately where doctors and researchers are really focusing on minutia, like without regard to the entire rest of the human. And as a clinical researcher, someone who is always studying people, I don't get off on these tangents on just one little, it's called a reductionistic sort of point of view. And so the human does just fine, whether we're talking about some nitric oxide or other component that, just relax. And it's kind of interesting to be able to teach people and see such things get better. And I hope you get that benefit too. So for whatever reason you looked in tonight, hope to have given you some pointers. I've been using low carb keto diets at Duke University now for over 25 years, which includes the research on it. And lately I've been seeing so many people get relief that the keto didn't quite give them for whatever reason. Of course, we've taught a lot of people at Adapt Your Life Academy, the Keto Made Simple course. I know there are a lot of things to be able to correct that have to do with internet keto. And now we give you strength keto. That's all included in the carnivore course because you'll be basically doing keto plus adding these. As I began the video, this is the granddaddy of all elimination diets. It's gluten-free, FODMAP-free, preservative-free, depending how you do it, artificial dye-free. So, if any of your constellation of symptoms that other doctors can't fix, try. I'm still in awe of what changing the food can do. As a classically trained internist, my colleagues are giving medicine things that manages things. And so I'm it's my passion to teach in my clinic and to teach you online. Thank you for viewing, and I have to sign off. I hope you check out the Carnivore Made Simple course at adaptyourlifeacademy.com. Good night.